NDP MP Jenny Kwan is traveling with the delegation, and moments ago her office released a statement refuting Israel's claims that she and the group pose a security risk. The statement, in part, reads, "The denial of entry to elected parliamentarians and civil society organizations engaged in peaceful, transparent parliamentary activity raises serious concerns regarding the openness of channels for dialogue. The use of security and public order narratives to limit legitimate fact-finding work is completely unacceptable." And Jenny Kwan, the Member of Parliament for Vancouver-East, joins me now live. She's in Amman, Jordan. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
So you were denied entry into the occupied West Bank earlier today. Walk me through how this all unfolded on the ground.
Well, we left Jordan this morning, early in the morning, on a bus with the delegation. We went through the various different checkpoints, and when we got to the border, we submitted all of our passports as the Canadian delegation. So then we waited for them to process the documents accordingly. And after a couple of hours, they emerged to advise us that the entire delegation has been denied access. Throughout this whole process, of course, the members of parliament, most of us had the special passport with us. Those of us with the special passport will not issue a form with the reasons for the denial. However, the rest of the delegations without the MP passports were issued that statement. And in the statement, it basically says that the reason for the denial is that they are concerns with respect to public safety, public security, and public order. And I, for one, reject that notion that civil societies who's doing humanitarian work on the ground is a security threat. And I also reject the fact that members of parliament doing our work also poses somehow as a security threat.
So these forms were something that members of the group, including yourself, refused to sign?
I was not asked to sign the form, so members of parliament with the special passport were not asked to sign the form, but all those other delegates who did not have the members parliament passport were asked to do so. The other thing I should also note as well, prior to embarking on this mission, we of course informed the Canadian government, who in turn told the Israeli government. We also all applied for a ETA, which we were approved prior to the departure as well. And so we went through all the various different checkpoints. Our visas were issued, our ETAs were issued. There seemed not to be any concerns at all up until that moment.
Now, you did, however, last week in an interview with CBC News, I believe you said that you suspected that the group may be denied entry because of the deteriorating relationship between the Canadian government and Israel over the last 2 years. So were there any steps that were taken to try to work around that if it is something that you anticipated may have happened?
Well, I always thought that that was a possibility. So you always, consider all the possibilities. One possibility would be that we would be denied access. With that being said, we've done everything that I think is necessary. We informed the Canadian government. GAC, in turn, informed the Israeli government that this was happening. We applied for the visas, which were approved. We applied for the ETAs, which were approved. And so we here in Jordan advised the Canadian embassy that we were embarking on this journey. And so at no point did we try to hide the information. We were very completely forthright with respect to it. And why did we want to embark on this mission? We wanted to talk to individuals who's been impacted family members from the Jewish community, members from the Muslim community, members from the Christian community, as an example, to hear directly from them their lived experiences, so that we can learn from what's going from them with respect to what's going on here in Jordan. We also visited the refugee camp as well, one of the refugee camps, and heard directly from family members what they have been going through and what life has been like for them, what are their challenges, what their hopes and dreams are. And we also witnessed humanitarian work being done here and how they are working to enable individuals, for example, to maintain a livelihood and to do a variety of different things to survive these very trying circumstances that they're in.
Now, Ms. Kwan, I do want to ask you, because there was a statement that was issued here by Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories, which manages the civilian authorities and border crossings in the West Bank. And in that, it said earlier today, several foreign nationals arrived at the Allenby border crossing without prior coordination. And following checks conducted by the security authorities in coordination with Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Population and Immigration Authority, their entry into the Judea and Samaria area was denied for security reasons. What's your reaction to that statement?
Well, with respect to informing the Israeli government, I'm advised that the Canadian government did exactly that. They have told them that a delegation of Canadians were going there. They've been informed of this mission. And so I'm not quite sure why it is that they're saying that they weren't advised of it. They were. And so, of course, the other thing to note as well, in entering into West Bank to meet with family members from different communities and the impacts and their lived experiences, to learn from them. I'm not quite sure what other coordination effort is required. We've done what we should be doing, which is inform our Canadian government, inform global affairs, who in turn, to my understanding, had advised the Israeli government that this was happening.
Now, I want to ask you also, in terms of those conversations that have been going on with the federal government now, what have they entailed? And also, how do you see the future relationship between Canada and Israel, given what has unfolded here?
Well, I think that the Canadian government have been advised of the situation, and so they're fully aware. I'm not quite sure what their response is as of yet, but as things were unfolding, where our access were denied or entry was denied, they were informed fully of the situation. In terms of going forward, I think there's a big question to be asked. Why is it that a fact-finding delegation who just want to talk to family members with what their life is like given the current circumstances is being denied access? You have to ask the question, what is it that the Israeli government is trying to hide, or the information that they don't want us to receive on the ground from people? In terms of impact for the Canadian government going forward, I know that the Canadian government declared Palestine statehood earlier, and that may well also have some implications for Canadians, and so therefore potentially this could be a reaction with respect to that. I think what's important here is really focusing on the issue. We're engaging in work that I think is critical. There's a humanitarian crisis, and we're trying to get a better understanding of what's going on the ground, and to see what we can do as Canadians in this situation.
I want to thank you so much for your time today and for joining us.
Thank you.
That is NDP MP Jenny Kwan joining us from Amman, Jordan.